let's look at the Numa X Piano GT. I've been looking at upgrading my stage piano for a while now because my old and trusty Kawai MP-7 is getting rather old and is not as trusty anymore as it once was. I've heard good things about the Numa piano line by Studiologic, especially their keyboard actions, and the workflow of it also seemed to match what I was looking for. And after reaching out to their distributor, I was lucky enough to get a unit to review, which I was able to keep for way longer than initially planned, also due to some issues I'll get into, but which I also might end up paying for to keep. Let's see. The Numa X pianos are pretty intuitive. The first thing you gotta understand is you can layer 4 different sounds, 4 different instruments, and you can also split them apart. And here you can turn these 4 sounds on or off, or control the volume of these instruments by turning the knobs. Studiologic does give you this quick start guide, which I think is pretty good, and especially these 3 tips right here are definitely worth checking out. The first one being follow the color. Sound number 1 is orange, and if this knob lights up orange, it relates to that sound as well. Sound number 2 is yellow. If the screen is yellow, if these knobs are yellow, they are all linked together. Next up, long press to zoom or edit. If you press something long, it's going to do a different action. Right here we soloed sound number 2. And the third one, keep an eye out for these instructions of what you can do with the joystick. These will appear on the main screen. For example, here you can see we can navigate up or down with the joystick. We can turn the joystick, or we can go right. These are the quick start tips. Now, if you start up your Numa X piano, you'll be greeted with this P001 global preset. And the best way to navigate to a different sound is just to turn the main joystick. Let's go back to the first preset, and you'll see with most of these only one sound might be active, but there is already pre-programmed sounds for the different slots. Like this we can layer a string with our piano, or also an acoustic bass. These buttons down here select which sound the rest of these knobs and buttons relate to. Let's select sound 1. Now when we click any of these sound bank buttons, it will switch the sound 1 to an electric piano, for example. And then this sub-menu opens, which lets you go through all the different available electric pianos. Or through all the available keys. Basses and guitars. Back to these 4 buttons. We can also long press one of these buttons, which will zoom in to sound 1. All of these 4 buttons now control sound 1, and you can start adjusting or even designing your own sounds. And you'll notice, depending on which sound bank you are in, these 4 knobs will control different settings. That's because there are different sound engines in here. For example, there's a dedicated engine for acoustic pianos, which have these 4 settings. Tone. We can make the piano bright, or very dull sounding. Nearly sounds like a felt piano like that. String resonance determines how much the strings that you are actually activating by pressing a key, how much those specific strings resonate. And bloom. You notice if we turn this setting down, this whole piano will sound a lot more dry. Let's also turn off duplex just to hear it better. And back up. And the sustain also gets a bit longer if you turn up the string resonance. Duplex, on the other hand, controls how much the strings that you aren't activating directly resonate. Also, you can turn up or down the pedal noise. And like this, you can shape your own piano sounds. Also, since we are zoomed into zone 1, we can of course still select a different sound for zone 1, like an electric piano, and you'll see how the controls are now different. And I do have to say, the electric piano engine in here does sound the most deep. As far as I know, this is based on physical modeling, and you can really notice when you play around with these controls. You can really shape your sounds to a large extent. Let's see with a Wurlis. That's pretty nice. But if you go to something else, like a sound from the keys bank, you'll see that that's pretty much just sample based, and you get your standard filter controls or attack and release controls, or a synth, again with a standard cutoff and ADSR controls. Let's zoom back out by clicking this button again, and you might have noticed in slot 4 currently there's a MIDI instrument loaded. If you click on MIDI, you can also select if it's USB or cabled DIN MIDI, and you can also just select a different sound by just clicking on it. Right, let's talk about the effects. We have insert effects as well as master effects. Let's use an electric piano because I'm in the mood. Now we can add an effect to that. Currently it's an equalizer, but we can long press this selector down here and choose what kind of effect you want to add. And this applies only to slot number 1. Slot number 2 can have its own effects, maybe with an auto wah. And there's a second effect that we can add as well. Also, then you have the global controls. These are send effects. So of course, if you adjust the time settings of the reverb, for example, it's going to change for all of the 4 sounds. And the delay works exactly the same. Let's compare the sounds of the Numa X Piano with my old Kawai MP-7. This is the concert grand of the MP-7. And this here is the German grand of the Numa X Piano. Because I'm so used to the MP-7, this is kind of the piano sound I prefer by default. So let's see if we can find another one, the Japanese grand. USA grand. Studio Grand of the MP-7. Italian Grand. This one sounds a bit bad to me. Very weird resonances. And meanwhile, the MP-7 sounds so natural. The Australian Grand. Blues Grand. Pop Grand. Sounds pretty good, but again, some weird resonances in the higher frequencies. I think my favorite is the Japanese Grand. Yeah, overall I think Kawai sounds better, has more natural sounds, but maybe it's a bit unfair because as far as I know this is modeled. The piano sounds in here are physically modeled and the piano sounds in here are sample-based more or less. And even with plugins, usually I prefer sample-based ones. And talking about that, let's actually compare these sounds to some plugins. That sounds pretty good. To me, the Melody Grand sounds the best out of these three options. I also have Native Instruments Noir. And here we have the Petrov Mistral from Piano Tech 9. You hear when I play the German Grand loudly, it always creates some kind of distortion. And I don't know where it's coming from so far. Now, a bit different from what I would usually expect on a keyboard like this are these two control sticks. Instead of a traditional mod and pitch bend wheel, we have stick 1 and 2. Of course, these are only superficially really different from a mod and pitch bend wheel. The stick 2 is basically just a pitch bend and stick 1 is basically just a mod wheel. The difference is maybe that you can map them in a bit more interesting ways. For example, we have this synth pad in slot 1. Currently, this is being modulated by stick number 2, but we could change globally what stick number 2 does. Go to the settings, go to stick 2 X function, and then we can select what this stick is controlling. From modulation to effects A amount, effects A parameter 1, 2 or 3, effects B amount, and so on. But let's actually keep the global function as modulation and then zoom into sound 1. And now if we navigate left, we get to the sound specific settings. And we can also navigate down here to stick 2 and change it from global, which just matches it with the global settings, to FX A amount, for example. Now we can load something in FX A, like a distortion, and stick 2 now controls the amount of distortion on sound 1. There's also Aftertouch in this keyboard. We can turn it on. currently modulating. I'm not sure if it can do anything else except for modulation, but like this we can still access the modulation of this synth pad. Another great point of comparison for the sounds on the Numa X piano are the sounds in the free Numa Player. The Numa Player is a pretty vast collection of piano and other keyboard sounds that are featured in my big piano comparison video, and it's pretty good for something free. But how does it compare to the Numa X piano? Because I was a bit worried that those would be exactly the sounds that you can find on here. And yes, they're good for being free, but I'm not sure if I would be happy with them on a $1,700 keyboard. Interesting here is the main piano in Numa Player is a piano Model D from 1983, and the second stock preset on this piano is also a Model D from 1983. So probably these are supposed to sound the same. And this is the Model D from the plugin. They definitely sound different, but I'm not even sure if I prefer the piano over the plugin, and that's a bit worrisome to me. The built-in sounds definitely react better to my playing. They feel nicer to play, they're more dynamic. Also interesting, if you go into the focus mode on the Numa piano, you have the exact same 4 controls as in the plugin: tone, string resonance, duplex, and pedal noise. It feels to me as if the Numa Player sound is supposed to be the same, but it's maybe slightly simplified. A while ago I made a big piano plugin comparison video, and these are the criteria according to which I judged the plugins. And if I judged these internal piano sounds with the same chart, it's going to look bad. Watch that video for more information. But if you press the key of a piano as softly as you can, it shouldn't make any sound. You can't do that with this piano. It doesn't have a silent key. Also with a real piano and with many digital pianos, you can press the key softly and then vibrate those strings by hitting keys an octave down. It's called sympathetic resonance, doesn't work with this piano. You do have some authentic features like pedal noise and string resonance, and also half pedaling works pretty well. And you can also re-pedal, catch decaying notes by hitting the pedal and make them ring out. So some important features are definitely here, but I'm definitely missing the string resonance and silent key. Also I checked in Piano Tech and this doesn't send release velocity. Not sure what that's useful for honestly, but it's another thing to note about this keyboard. Next up I want to compare some Wurlitzers. Here I loaded the preset Wurli 200 and here the sound 60s EP. Let's compare it to a plugin. Here I have the Rhodes Wurli. The Wurli from UVI's Key Suite. Not my favorite, honestly. And let's also compare it to Wurli 200 in the Numa Player. And I'm honestly not sure if this is legit. To me, this sounds a lot more like a Tynes-based piano. So what about Tyne-based pianos? Here I have a Mark I loaded, and here I loaded the Classic EP, which is probably also a Rhodes Mark I. Pretty nice, but also intense auto pan on this Mark I. Let's maybe turn that off. I like how this one is a bit more dirty sounding, a bit more gritty. Let's compare it to Electric Keys Tines from Sound Factory. That's something that honestly happens way too often. Some keys just start sticking when I control plugins with this one, and then you have to restart the plugin. I think it's a problem with the pedal. And this one? And how does it compare to Lounge Lizard 5? And this is the Mark I in the Numa player. Sounds pretty good as well, but not as good as the built-in one. Again, the built-in sounds are a lot more dynamic. Lastly, what about organs? Honestly, something that's a lot nicer about, for example, the Kawai, if you load an organ sound. Different one? The mod wheel is immediately linked to rotary switch, and these faders can even be turned into stops, so you can change the organ sound on the fly. Now on the Numa, let's see if we can find a nice organ preset. This is the Program 28 Jazz organ set. Sounds pretty good. It's 2 sounds layered, and the rotary switch is also mapped now to stick number 2. But the problem I have here is you need your whole keyboard to select an organ preset like that. If I were to start on program number 1 and then say, in slot number 2, I would love an organ. I click there. I can scroll through different sounds like this. But I can't get the layered sound I had from before. And also, stick number 2 does nothing. I just wanted to keep the piano on slot 1 right. And now on slot 2, I need to go to the settings, go down to stick to, a rotary in FXP. Maybe there was, and then you have to map it manually. And the rotary doesn't sound amazing, but to be fair, this rotary doesn't sound amazing either. Do we have another organ preset here, organ drive? Sounds pretty good. I do think this one has nice presets, and the sounds out of the box I like more than the ones from the Kawai. Kawai is definitely more flexible because it has actual drawbars you can pull, and it's also more user-friendly because it stores like the mapping and stuff within the sound and not within the preset. Medium, right? It needs that rotary speaker on it, definitely. Oh, that's way better. And there's also organ sounds in the Numa player. That's another built-in sound. All right. The last thing I want to show you in this tutorial style walkthrough is how you can use the audio inputs. I connected this Rephase TX to the inputs 1 and 2, and if we click up here, we switch to the view of the audio inputs. Similar to the internal sounds, you have 4 different channels for audio inputs with colors that I like a lot more, honestly. This would be a cool standard look. And now it basically already works. We just need channel 1 and 2, and we can change the volume by turning as we are used to. And also if we navigate left, we can scroll through different setups. For example, a dual stereo setup, which makes more sense for my stereo synth that I'm inputting there. Now we have one control for both of the stereo channels. Okay, I do have some issues I want to talk about with the Numa X. The first one I noticed is if you're starting to build a multi-layer preset, like you're really getting into designing the sound, you're playing around with it, and then you're like, what keyboard should I add for slot 3? Should it be this one? Turn down, maybe this one. And let's say you get a bit lost in designing this sound, that you maybe spend 10 minutes, you want to go to the next sound, and oh no, whole preset's lost. That's because by default, scrolling with this wheel goes from global preset to global preset. And if you adjust a preset, there's no like intermediate RAM location where that state will be stored until you save it. So if you adjust something and you go to a different global preset, everything that you changed is reset back to the original state it was. You can of course save a new state, but then you lose the preset that you started out with. And then if you dive into a menu, you can scroll through it or you can flick through it up and down. But why does this menu then suddenly close automatically? To me, this doesn't make any sense. I think this should stay open until I click here again, which it doesn't, by the way. That was just a coincidence. Or those two actions should not be linked at all. What if I could click multiple times on this button to go up or down this list of instruments, that I wouldn't have to touch the rotary encoder and I wouldn't risk losing all my work. So I think there is some refinement that should happen here. Also, though, an issue I have is often I accidentally override a preset by saving it. Maybe that's just me, but I get lost a bit in the menu and then I hit something twice, and now if I hit this tick icon one more time, then I override the preset. Just something with the whole preset workflow is not fully what I would want it to be. Third issue I have is that you don't have per zone presets. This is also the culprit of that issue I had with the mod wheel that doesn't map automatically if you load an organ sound. I think that's just a workflow killer. Also, you might have noticed in one of the sound comparisons that I tried to switch to sound 1 and it didn't work. Most of these rotary encoder buttons are very reliable, but number 1 has a little problem. Sometimes it gets pushed down too much, like right now. And then you can hit it and it doesn't always trigger. See this? And I think that's a pretty huge issue for a stage piano. Things like this just can't happen. There's an easy fix for this in my case. If you take off the cap of the rotary encoder, put it in place lightly, and now it's working pretty reliable again. But press it down a bit too much, like it could even happen during transport, right? Something's laying on top of it and suddenly it doesn't work reliably anymore. And talking about the build quality issues, one reason why it took me very long to make this video and one reason why I had to borrow this keyboard a lot longer than I planned is because they sent me a defective unit. The keyboard didn't work, warranty thing, and they fixed it and then it worked, but it's just not a very comforting first impression. Another issue I have with it is I am pretty happy with the keybed. It feels really nice, it feels high quality, it's nice to play, but try to pay attention to the difference in intensity of when I hit this chord to this chord. Again. I don't know how well you hear that, but to me it feels like the white keys are a bit sharper than the black keys. There is a setting specifically for that. If you go to the settings, you can go to keyboard black-white balance. And then you can make the black keys more sensitive. Or less sensitive. But I can go all the way to the maximum of plus 15%, and now it feels balanced to me. So far I mostly compared how the Numa X sounds line out through headphones, through a DAW, but I've also used the Numa in the context of a band, in this room through some medium-sized PA speakers, and I got feedback from my band members, and I also shared this opinion more or less, that in this room through the speakers the Kawai just sounded better. Specifically, maybe the transients were clearer, more perceptible, and also the balance between higher and lower notes felt a bit more natural. I'm trying to give you an impression of how the two pianos sound in this room with this binaural Zoom recording. This is the German grand. I found the USA grand. Sounds a bit better maybe. Japanese grand. German grand. Honestly, there's so much low end in these sounds. And the Japanese grand is a bit brighter, but it still has this massive low end that I don't know what to do with. That doesn't sound great on these speakers. So I guess that's the issue, too much low end in the Studiologic. I'm using the DAW to add some drums to the room noise. Let's see how they cut through next to the drums. Yeah, low end build up with the Numa X, and also with this one the dynamics feel really natural to me, and with this one if I start digging into the keys I feel like I want to get even louder, but then it feels like the sounds are getting softer again somehow, like I'm hitting a compressor. But since the biggest issue seems to be the low end build up, let's just use the built-in EQ and lower the low gain by a couple of dB. Expecting some people to prefer the sound of the Numa X, honestly. It sounds nice. This one sounds nice too. Maybe this is a bit too dry for some people. This one has a bit more vibe to it sometimes. I'm used to this, and this just, I don't know. It's also, again, the weighting of the black keys. Sometimes I'm hitting them too high up, and then you get even less leverage, and then you hit them even softer. I've talked a lot, let me sum some things up in a pro and cons list. I gotta mention the workflow again. I think overall it's very well thought out and intuitive. And I do think it has good sounds, especially the electric pianos, and also it has a nice variety of usable sounds. And I feel you can do a bit more sound design here than you can do with other digital pianos or stage pianos, another pro. And the effects engine is really nice, sounds good, and again, very well thought out how it works. Another pro that's important for me on the stage is that it has audio inputs, 4 audio inputs, and the general keybed feel I think is nice. It feels high quality, it feels heavy in a good way, it's very playable. And the compact size is definitely also a pro for a stage piano if you gotta transport it a lot. But there's of course some cons that I mentioned. The weight. It feels really heavy. It's also because it's so compact, but that's maybe something to keep in mind if you're going to travel a lot with this. And as I try to explain, I'm not a huge fan of the preset management or some aspects of it. And definitely one of the bigger issues for me is the black-white keys imbalance, as well as some of the missing authentic piano features, sympathetic resonance, silent key. And I don't know if I can really add build quality as a con. It feels very sturdy overall, but I did have some issues, so I'm leaving this one with a question mark. I can't speak to the longevity of this piano. And you definitely got in this video that I'm not a huge fan of the acoustic piano sounds, but I think this one is also not necessarily a con. It's definitely taste-based as well. And the last con to mention, I don't know, but I think it doesn't look great. The mix of the orange with the wood, with the black, I think there's one color too many, and especially the wood and the orange together, I don't love. These wooden cheeks that they put on all the pianos I have, I don't get aesthetic in general. I think the Numa X Piano 88 looks kind of nicer than this one. Talking about the Numa X Piano 88, you might have noticed that many of my cons are related to the keybed. And if you don't care about the keybed, but you like the sounds and the workflow, definitely consider getting the regular Numa X Piano, not the GT version. The GT version has a more expensive keybed with wooden keys, and the regular Numa X Pianos are exactly the same, just with a different keybed. And I also want to mention the price. I think at 1,700-ish euro, the GT is really on the upper limit of what I'm willing to pay for it. And in the US, I don't know how this works, tariffs and stuff, 2,100, that's crazy. And yeah, because I'm not sure about the Keybed, the Numa X Piano 88 at like 1,200-ish euros starts to look a lot more intriguing. And thinking about the weight as well, because the 88 version doesn't have wooden keys, it is going to be a lot lighter at 14 kilograms compared to the 22 kilograms. I hope you found this helpful in considering whether the Numa X Piano GT is right for you. I think I'm going to send it back, and this video really took me so long to make. Probably a bit pointless, not sure how many people are going to watch the whole thing. But if you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, I think I'm going to make a Discord. Check the description for an invitation link. And if you're looking for feedback for some music you're working on, consider joining my Patreon. Thank you to B4 Distribution for providing me with a Numa X Piano GT. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching and see you again soon.